You're watching the UseWise channel. I'm Adriana Baranek, and here with me again is our CTO, Mladen Baranek.
Hi.
So today I would like to make clear one thing that in previous videos, sometimes we mention like small companies profit from the cloud and large companies profit from the cloud, and people usually wonder what kind of companies are the ones that will profit most from moving to the cloud. And of course, large companies, they do have so many complexities that it is much harder for them to bring all of their workloads to the public cloud, that's for sure. But in general, what is your opinion on that?
So public cloud brings new capabilities to smaller companies, but enterprises, bigger companies have much to gain, and they are better positioned to benefit from moving to public cloud. So first of all, they already have a huge amount of sunken costs, and they have complexities managing secondary cost allocations, how to actually manage projects. Usually bigger companies have also a problem of distributed IT environment. They have a lot of external cooperations with other companies, and they can be assembled from different IT backgrounds. So through acquisitions, usually those bigger companies acquired a lot of different IT systems, so that they have kind of a zoo to manage. And for them, if they embrace public cloud, of course they can for one get a lot of economic benefits, but they can also become more flexible. They can achieve economic benefits and transparency, and decrease complexity of managing their infrastructure and managing their business processes.
Mm-hmm.
So for bigger companies, I would say there is much more to gain from public cloud, while smaller companies are now presented with a lot of capabilities and features they wouldn't be able to afford, since they don't have a lot of capital and a lot of resources already available to them.
Yeah, and I mean, even for larger companies, what we have seen in the corporate IT, like from 1990 or something, before, it used to be like at work you had the great technology, you had great opportunities, and then when you came home you had like very bad web email or something, or horrible Outlook, and it was very hard to even set up your own private email account. And now lots of people, unfortunately, in corporate IT, especially in larger companies, they have a very very outdated email client at work, and they have a very hard time, keeping up with their tasks. And at home they can use amazing technology, just signing up like a consumer in the cloud. So that change really shows that today larger companies, in fact, can also use new services and modernize themselves and their work processes, everything, by using the public cloud. Can you please tell us more?
Yeah, so you touched one aspect where somehow most developed countries have a population that is using public cloud services, and internet became a tool to do business. So not only that workers at home have public cloud services, they have mobile services, they have mobile phones. They also do a lot of business with bigger companies. So for those bigger companies, it becomes kind of a challenge if they do not embrace their customers as well as their employees. So one problem is that we see a lot of bigger companies that have a horrible intranet practices that are kind of laggards in a way that their intranet it's presenting a lot of obstacles to everyday workflow that their employees have to perform. So usually in such enterprises people have a much better internet connection if they're using their mobile phone with 4G technology than if they're using their intranet. Then there is also a problem if company is not able to transform itself and it's not able to communicate with consumers, especially if it's a B2C company. Then we see a lot of new business models like Uber, like now we'll see a lot of financial services that will be transformed, how transactions are done. So a lot of companies will start to face challenges, and it is questionable whether they will be able to survive unless they embrace public cloud in communication with their customers. So even utilities have an issue. For example, if you are sending, I don't know, 10, 20 or 100 million emails per month, but because you have to send bills for utilities to your customers, then most probably 80% of your customers will use public cloud email, and if your bills are ending in spam, if they are not delivered, if you have issues with that, or if you are using snail mail, then you have costs and additional problems, and your support it's not good. And so that's only a basic example how companies that have very bad intranet and their on-prem solutions are not only preventing their employees, their workforce to develop, but they will start to have issues with consumers. Mm-hmm. So there is this moment that consumers are also not really delighted when a company cannot communicate using public cloud.
Yeah, and back to small companies. So I have one theory why so many people have this misconception that smaller companies gain more from the cloud. For sure, smaller companies can get amazing services that they could never afford in that scale. But the funny part is before, and we see it on many of our markets, 30 years ago, when you were a very small company, you would use some horrible hosting provider. They would give you maybe 30 years ago it was 10 megabytes or something of data that you can keep in your mailbox. And when you grow, you get more employees, you get more money, then you build your own on-premise infrastructure, and then you're like, I'm so cool. And the cloud is still perceived as just a fancier version of the hosting. Can you please comment on that?
Yeah, so in 50s and 60s, many bigger companies started to invest in data centers, and in 80s it was kind of a norm to have a mini or some kind of a host computer that would serve number of employees through terminals, and you would be able to sell some services to your business partners or to a general population. So in 90s, with a kind of revolution with personal computers and internet, somehow companies started to invest in their own networking, and the whole business model changed. But smaller enterprises were able to invest in their own data centers, and suddenly after 2010, there was a public cloud that basically made internet something that a general population is using. So those data centers were not really able to compete anymore with public cloud services demand. And now companies are facing a challenge what to do with their old infrastructure and with their old data centers, so how to move to public cloud. So in a lot of situations there were a kind of companies that were buying those old data centers. So if they buy in one region 50 or 100 data centers, they would build kind of Frankenstein and operate it as a hosting provider to lower the cost and try to compete with those public cloud vendors. But usually that is not really a successful business model. So it can survive to some extent, but it's going down. So we see that it is kind of an issue. So today it is very hard to sell your own data center because demand for it's quite low.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so basically we can say that for smaller companies it is a no-brainer. Public cloud is definitely something that if they're not using it, then they are like completely wrong if they use some horrible hosted service. And for larger companies, they have so much to gain by moving to the public cloud that it is also highly advisable for them to not waste another day and to explore what public cloud can offer and to plan their deployment in the cloud. Can you tell us more about that?
It's quite simple, but basically it does not make sense to build a 5G or 4G network for a private enterprise or for a company, especially if it's multinational. So it only makes sense to rely on a kind of internet and public cloud offering. So as you can see that connectivity is migrating from legacy services where you had a patchwork of contracts, bilateral agreements and leased lines, MPLS and that kind of stuff. Today a lot of companies are actually connecting directly to points of presence. They're using internet, and it just doesn't make sense to build your own wireless network. So the situation it's becoming similar for IT infrastructure, so it just doesn't make sense to build your own data center. It's more reasonable to use public cloud services.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, so we see a bright future. And we expect a lot of new services, and we are looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. Please contact us, leave your questions in the comments below. We might make a video out of those questions, and subscribe to us and follow us. Every Monday we will for sure have a new video out. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mladen.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.